Beautiful friends, welcome to another episode of Cosmic Connections. I'm Rachel Archelaus, and we're here with Harry Kroner.
Hello, how are you?
Today we're going to talk about other dimensional work. So what work we do on, higher dimensions, what we've done in the past, in other lifetimes, all sorts of stuff. And I think we're mostly pulling from what we've experienced checking in for clients. So Harry does his own work, and he'll tell you how he accesses this information and what he's seen other people doing in other dimensions, and I'll do something similar. And we definitely want to hear from you too. So if you know about your other dimensional work or you're interested in this, let us know in the comments, and we'd be happy to further the conversation with you. So Harry, you were just telling me about a client you recently had that was pertinent to this topic. So why don't you kick things off and share that story with us?
All right, very good. So I've worked with spiritual hypnotherapy and used it as an opener for higher dimensional work for many years. But it really has become even more powerful since I've studied Dolores Cannon's quantum healing hypnosis technique. And with that, I really help people open in a beautiful, interesting way, and things that come up are just phenomenal. So just this past weekend, I had a wonderful client, and he described first thing he did is he went up and looked at down the earth and said in a very interesting kind of reluctant way, like, I don't want to go back down there again. I don't want to go down to another life. And we actually found him in his, again, higher dimensional work, working on the ships, and knowing that he needs to, someone in his team needs to go down, and he is just the best candidate to go down to work down and back to have a life back on Earth. But based on his experience and lifetimes here on Earth, he knew that he wants to come back down and have just some reassurance and some connection. So his connection to the high dimensions have kept more open than usual. And he asked also to bring his soulmate with him, so she will share his life, and that was his wife in this lifetime. And she was brought back from the angelic realm. She was already moved into another. It's not a higher dimension, because I was asked about it. It's not a higher dimension. It's just a different realm, a different space. But she was brought back to be his companion again in this lifetime. So that was fascinating to hear that. So I asked her, so what are you doing on the ship? And I like that even better, because some people say, like, oh my God, it's amazing, it's phenomenal. I say, like, no, it's rather boring work. And at that point, it's more of a real sentiment of someone who's been doing it for a very long time. Any kind of work, something like it just becomes routine. And what he was doing on the ships is monitoring many different, kind of, I said, like, not exactly computers, but basically the recording of Earth history, Earth information, human and geological, everything. They record everything, literally everything. So he was one of those people who was in charge of the recording of information, history, and all that stuff. So, and when I asked him, like, no, how many ships, what's the size of the ship? It obviously is a tremendous ship. And, here's something that was really interesting. So he's saying where they have been waiting. And I talked a lot with him when he was in that state of being in the ship, because obviously when they're in the ship, they have a lot more information. So I'm always curious. And he was saying that right now, as we are experiencing the ascension, they're actually holding back. They're holding back those galactic waves that will, because if they, with the spaceships, they're actually creating kind of a magnetic, electromagnetic field around the Earth to protect the Earth from a full onslaught of those energies. Otherwise, we would have ascended right away. And those energies have been available to the Earth since 1986. That's what he was saying. And the reason they're holding them back, they're giving a chance for humanity to evolve by itself higher and higher as much as possible. And obviously, this is very, very noticeable especially in the past few years since 2012. So many people are becoming aware. So many people are opening up to this that in the past had no interest in whatsoever. So it was interesting to know that they are actually holding back, and at some point in the near future, and the point is not determined yet, especially not in the time concept as we hold it. It is a moment. It is more they're waiting for a certain vibration that humanity will reach, and in order to allow the full fledge of the energy to come and flood the earth and create that separation. This is an interesting part of information. I'm sorry, I'm moving away from the subject, but it was just interesting because that's his experience, that's his work on the other dimension. And once that full blown energy will come to the earth, that separation between the fifth dimensional earth and the three-dimensional earth will be created. Again, it's and the fifth dimensional earth, and that was like a little bit of new information for me, will be more of a star, that the earth is actually is, and it would become on the fifth dimensional level more of a star, an emanating star, rather than a physical, geographical earth that is here in this three-dimensional world.
Interesting.
So right now, I asked a little more details about it. So right now we are kind of experiencing both, especially people that are already kind of transitioning and working in high dimensions. We're experiencing both, but at some point there'll be a complete separation. And again, in an undisclosed, because they really even themselves don't know exactly when it's going to happen. They've been holding it off for now 30 years, actually exactly 30 years. So it's interesting to see how it unfolds. So that was my weekend, kind of doing that kind of stuff. And I think we've mentioned before that many people, that especially, that's another thing that came up, and I got confirmation from many different clients and different sources for this, is that many different people do have, especially those what's called waves of volunteers that have come to the earth to volunteer and help in the ascension of the earth. They almost all of them have jobs or work on those higher dimensions around the earth right now. And as are we. I mean, I know, again, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of that experience myself, just glimpses. That I am also a commander in one of the ships that are hovering above the earth, and it is interesting to know that so many of us do this work, and while we sleep or we go and we just immediately transition and do the other work, and come back and do this kind of oscillation between the two roles that we take place. And the closer we get to the higher vibration we get, the more aware we are that veil between those two levels of being within ourselves is just shrinking and thinning in a good way. So tell us a little more about your experience.
Well, first, I just want to reiterate what you're saying, and that a lot of people have these simultaneous other jobs in higher dimensions, and it'll often play a role in the life that you're leading on Earth. Like, for example, I work with children in a different dimension, and I've worked as a nanny for several families in this lifetime. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people will find that whatever they're doing during the day is akin to what they're doing elsewhere on other places. And it's just another reminder to not judge what you're doing on Earth. Like, a lot of people, we want to have a big impact. We feel like we should be like helping more people, or maybe we feel like we're not doing enough if we're not in the service world, right? Like if we're not coaching or teaching. But, you're doing so much more than right. Just with your vibration alone, but also like physically, or you know what I mean by physically in other places with other people in other dimensions. Like, and Harry, you're a leader here. You're sharing your content. You're a teacher, And so it makes sense that you'd be a ship captain, right? Who's a leader and exhibits those same qualities.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting too, when when I was a kid, it was kind of interesting to feel like I felt like I'm always in charge. I need to be in charge. And I was kind of been kind of even to other kids was kind of weird. A little too dominating in that part, but still, it's just like that, knowing that I'm just that much more than just this.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to also like build upon what you were saying. I have the sense, and a lot of people who are doing this, is that by being here physically on the earth, we are anchoring those higher dimensions, those parts of our being. We are anchoring and bringing more of it to down here to the three-dimensional, and helping with essentially just by being.
Yes.
Obviously, we need to be in our highest and allow ourselves to be focused, clear, and attentive to our connection. But just by being, we don't need to do anything special. I mean, and I know some people who are accountants. Okay, they don't necessarily have to do something tremendous or in this field, or even if they feel drawn to it, they don't necessarily have to do it, because some of them are such highly evolved beings that don't even develop any karma because they are in that level, and a lot of them don't have children because of that. They don't need to create any more karma for themselves, and that way remain and just more focused on the path and on the purpose. So it accepts a variety of possibilities and ways of expressions that are totally okay. We just still need to be the best that we can within ourselves, but just by being, we already are serving our purpose.
Yeah. So when I do readings for people, I look into their soul gifts and, kind of float around who they are when they're not on Earth. And that's kind of when I started discovering these other jobs that people have. Mm. And I always found that the qualities that they would need to do those jobs are what they're drawn to and what they're working with here.
Yes.
Like, for example, I met a bunch of people in a row who seemed to be a kind of ambassador. Like, they would be in charge of greeting different star people, different, from different systems throughout the galaxy. They'd be in charge of greeting them and hosting them in the big meetings that they have out there. And I felt that really like regal, in control, gregarious quality that they had to do that. And then I've also, seen a lot of people who are the solo ship captains, where it's just them in like a little pod and they've got to go back and forth places. And I know for myself, I've been or am kind of on a supply route in a ship, a little ship with just a couple people just dropping off supplies, picking them up, bringing them around. And, it's interesting because I love to drive. I just drive all the time since I've been in Connecticut now for a week. I don't know, putting 300, 400 miles on my little rental car, and I'm just really enjoying it. So I love how this can expand our view of who we are and like give you permission to take the pressure off, because you don't always have to do here in order to create a big impact. And it's also fun to investigate, like, why do I feel like such a leader? Why have I always been such a good counselor? These innate qualities that you have, they come from somewhere, and you're probably using those same qualities in many other places at the same time. So it's really... Right.
Yeah, and in fact, I was guided to, with my guides and everything, is to call upon those talents and skills from those other parts within us, those in higher dimension, and to call upon those qualities. Is like, okay, you know what? You can actually call upon those qualities of that commander, because he's very good at organization and planning, and bring that into your life and help you with organizing your business next project, and it has helped me tremendously to do that. And I've realized, in hindsight, that I've been doing that. So because in general I'm a little kind of spastic, but suddenly when I need to to do some planning and an organization, I'm exceptionally good at it. So I was like, where does that come from? So it's fun to see that and know like, oh, it explains a little more about, again, our own traits and skills, as you mentioned, and our own tendencies and that are just fun. And it's good to know that that are there and available for you to draw upon.
Yeah. Very cool.
So that there's other people who are doing all kinds of fascinating work, and it's interesting to see and know that it's not only like people who work on ships and stuff like that. It's also people who have been part of Earth in an even greater way. Meaning, the story of one of my clients. She is one of those original beings, cosmic beings that have created the earth, because everything is creation, and that we are creationists in that way, in this way. But again, in a more global way, it's all part of the one, and the source is who's constantly creating, and nothing is created without purpose and intention in this universe. It's that simple. Everything is created with intention, and to focus that intention and help create. So there's other, very large beings as far as their consciousness that help create the earth and shape the earth and have it go through those billions of years that we think it was just created. It was parts of that creation of bringing it to being. So it was fascinating to meet and talk to that person and see that one of her, you can say past lives or other roles in this was to help create the earth and help doing. And has a lot of information about that, which I feel is very clear, because as you know, with your intuition as well, you can sense when information is muddled or distorted. It's very, for me by now, easy to notice that if someone starts telling me something, I feel I can sense it, especially with the client, that it's very clear information that is good, and realizing that it's just so much more and so much more other dimensions of work that people have. Have taken roles that are substantial, and you can read a lot more about it in Dolores Cannon's books. And actually, I have one right here. Sorry, I'm just going to do it because it's right in my right here. Custodian.
I love that book. It's so good.
Custodians Beyond Abduction by Dolores Cannon. There we go. And she has the whole convoluted universe, which has now 5 books, and it's just fascinating to see, again, countless accounts of people who take and are and become, and they're just cosmic beings or angelic beings. And I have encountered a lot of my clients who are not only the blue avian race, but also just angelic beings that have chosen out of character. Because usually angelic beings do not choose to incarnate, but because this is such an important mission of ascending this whole earth and humanity, they have chosen to come in and play. So it's interesting to kind of meet like people who are like actually literally angels and angelic beings. So it's very humbling to see that in people, and I'm sure it's at some point a little confusing. And even if you who are listening here and this kind of notice that, wow, I'm something different or big in another dimension, it feels both humbling and if you can take it the wrong way too and become egoic, like, oh, I'm so important. Mm-hmm. We all do this kind of important work. We all have an important hand in it. So it's just really allowing it to more integrate and synthesize. And that's really the key here, to allow it to go from the first encounter and become more of just an acceptance of who you are as a being. Understanding that you are as a being is an infinite amount of expressions of the one. And this is just who we are. And the higher we go, the more and more consciousness and more comprehensive and larger those beings are. And when they say we are all one, we are the source, it is simply that. It is simply that connection that we are inside of us in our consciousness. We are, again, greater and greater portions of who we are just all that is until you get to that level of the source of the prime creator of just pure source.
Beautiful. Yeah, I want to mention a book too. It's called Human by Day, Zeta by Night, I believe.
Oh, cool.
And it's all about the story of, basically how a girl learns that she's actually a Zeta who's incarnated for a special reason. And then she, kind of goes through integrating back into really who she is and going on ships at night and living and going to school during the day. And it's really cool because you can learn a lot of us here do have lives on other star systems right now. Like I'm one of them. I've got an existence somewhere else. I'm coming here for a short time. Not that I'm going to die young, but there's no time anywhere else. So it's really interesting, and the book is really great. It's written as fiction, though it is a real account of this person's experience. So very informative and really easy to read.
Excellent. Do you remember the name of the author by any chance?
I don't remember the name of the author, no.
You repeat the name for everybody?
Yeah, Human by Day, Zeta by Night.
Excellent. Yeah. And I want to account another story because I know people love stories. There was this, never mind, which doesn't during the day. It's not really important, very 3D for now. But at night, when she was going and working there, she was going and being an educator and teaching and lecturing, not only here as far as in the ships, but actually going into big councils and actually doing lectures about what humanity is and what is the different things that they're doing, and just seeing the beauty in it. And understanding the complexity of our experience here on Earth, and she was like, it was interesting because she was seeing herself doing it for like large kind of amphitheater kind of style lecture halls of great beings from across the universe, universes, and so it's kind of interesting to know that. And I know that I have done that. I'm aware of the fact that I'm going out at night and lectures to audiences and allow them to know and see some greater perspectives on what it is and why people behave the way they do and why things happen. Because it's definitely an anomaly, the way how dense we are and how separate we are from who we are in general as consciousness, as beings on down here on this earth. And so it is fascinating for so many beings from across the galaxies and the universes to understand how it enabled and allow different diversification of experience down here on Earth, which is, again, it's a very unique experience. So allow yourself to see the uniqueness in this experience of being here on Earth, and not just like feel like the grudge of like, I'm still here. That there's beauty in just the uniqueness of the experience, and just enjoy it and allow yourself to see the beauty of how special it is and how special it is to be on this earth, and witnessing the physical beauty of it, and witnessing things that are just so special. So just loving life, as you said, like to give the perspective that our life here is not small or insignificant necessarily to our experiences as beings, but it is actually important. If our consciousness, our soul decided to come here and find it worthwhile, it is worthwhile. We just need to allow ourselves to see that it is worthwhile and see the beauty and just enjoying it.
Very good. It's a great place to end.
Yes. Very good.
See the beauty in everything, and everything is perfect.
Excellent.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. You can get in touch with Harry at harrykroner.com. You can have one of those amazing sessions where he can look into what you're doing on other dimensions. And I've got some psychic sense enhancement courses you can take over at Sephiroth.com. So we'll talk to you next week, and lots of love.